stories, Mozambique burns 45,000 hens as bird flu spreads from South Africa. India to declare dead 79 persons missing in Himalayan lake floods. Plus, Haiti arrests key suspect in president's murder. Hello and welcome to World News on VOP TV. I'm Joy Adesowa Iramoseli. Israel bombards Gaza-hidden areas in the south where Palestinians had been told to seek safety as it began evacuating a large Israeli town in the north near the Lebanese border. The move is the latest sign of the potential ground invasion of Gaza that could trigger even more regional turmoil. Palestinians in Gaza reported heavy airstrikes in Khan Younis in the south, and ambulances carrying men, women, and children streamed into the town's Nasser hospital, Gaza's second largest, which is already overflowing with patients and people seeking shelter. On Thursday, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant ordered ground troops to prepare to see Gaza from the inside, hinting at a ground offensive aimed at crushing Gaza's military Hamas rulers nearly 2 weeks after their body's incursion into Israel. Officials have given no timetable for such an operation. Over 1 million people have been displaced in Gaza, with many heeding Israel's order to evacuate the northern part of the sealed-off coastal enclave. More than 200 trucks and some 3,000 tons of aid were positioned at or near Rafah, but work has not yet begun on repairing a road on the Gaza side that was damaged by airstrikes. Israel has evacuated its own communities near Gaza and Lebanon, putting residents up in hotels elsewhere in the country in a state funding program. Israel is evacuating more than 20,000 residents from Kiryat Shmona, one of the biggest towns on its northern border with Lebanon, following a heavy cross-border exchange of fire in the area the day before. The Israel-Lebanon border has seen constant but so far limited clashes since a war in Gaza erupted 2 weeks ago. Israel had already declared some areas along the frontier as closed military zones, forcing residents to move away, but this is the largest evacuation from the lush hill of the eastern Galilee region. Persistent violence along the Israel-Lebanon border has raised fears that fighting between Israel and Hamas Islamists in Gaza could spiral into a broader regional conflict. Israel's military stated that one of its drones struck a terrorist in Lebanese territory overnight. Evacuees from Kiryat Shmona will be put up in state-subsidized guest houses. Also, United States forces are facing increased threats, raising concerns that the Israel-Hamas war may spill over across the region. Drones and missiles were launched at bases hosting U.S. troops in Iraq on Thursday. The attacks helped put Washington on heightened alert for activity by Iran-backed armed groups following similar incidents in Iraq and Syria on Wednesday, while a U.S. warship intercepted missiles potentially heading towards Israel. President Joe Biden has sent naval power to the Middle East in the past 2 weeks, including 2 aircraft carriers, warships, and about 2,000 Marines. There has been an uptick in attacks on U.S. forces since the conflict in Israel broke out on October 7, when Palestinian fighters from Hamas, the armed group that ruled Gaza, attacked southern Israel. Earlier this week, U.S. forces thwarted multiple drones targeting troops, but on Wednesday, a drone hit U.S. forces in Syria, resulting in minor injuries, while another was brought down. Also, Chinese leader Xi Jinping has stated that the top priority is to prevent the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from expanding. Xi made this remark during his meeting with Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Modbole, who was in Beijing for the Third Belt and Road Forum. His remarks are his first public mention since the beginning of the conflict in the Middle East. According to him, the top priority is to bring about a ceasefire and end the war as soon as possible to prevent the conflict from expanding or even getting out of control and causing a serious humanitarian crisis. He added that China appreciates Egypt's role in calming the situation and supporting the effort to set up a humanitarian corridor. China will strengthen coordination with Egypt and other Arab countries to promote a just and lasting solution to the Palestinian issue. In another development, North Korea leader Kim Jong-un met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Pyongyang and praised a new era in relations between the two countries. Kim said that Pyongyang aimed to work out a stable, forward-looking, far-reaching plan for the DPRK-Russia relations in the new era by faithfully implementing the agreements made at the DPRK-Russian summit. The U.S. has been expanding regular military drills with South Korea and temporarily deploying more powerful military assets around the Korean peninsula in response to North Korea's barrage of missile tests since last year. The U.S. and South Korea have also resumed some trilateral military exercises with Japan. Since last year, the U.S. has accused North Korea of providing ammunition, artillery shells, and rockets to Russia, likely much of them copies of Soviet-era munitions. North Korea had steadfastly denied its shipped arms to Russia, but South Korea officials said North Korean weapons provided to Russia have already been used in Ukraine. Elsewhere, Mozambique has reported an outbreak of highly pathogenic H7 avian influenza, commonly called bird flu, among poultry in the southern part of the country. The World Organization for Animal Health stated on Thursday that the flu outbreak was found on a farm of 54,207 laying hens aged between 23 and 30 weeks, kept in a high biosecurity facility. The spread of the highly contagious virus is raising concerns among governments and the poultry industry after it ravaged flocks about the globe in the past year, disrupting supply, fueling food prices, and posing a risk of human transmission. The birds had been imported from neighboring South Africa, which has been hit by an outbreak of the disease. The outbreak has now spread to Mozambique's district of Morumbene in the southern Himalayan province. Authorities are trying to contain it as fears grow that it could spread to other parts of the country. Bird flu is an infectious disease of poultry and wild birds. It can spread through entire flocks of domestic birds within a matter of days, through bird droppings and saliva, or through contaminated feed and water. The outbreak has led to a shortage of eggs and chicken and a sharp rise in prices in recent days in Mozambique, including in the capital Maputo. In another development, India has begun work to designate as dead about 79 persons who went missing in floods unleashed by the Himalayan glacial lake outburst 2 weeks ago. According to a senior official on Friday, the floods, which was triggered by torrential rains and overflow from the Lonak Lake, were among the region's worst in more than 50 years, washing away homes and bridges in the northeastern state of Sikkim, wedged between Bhutan, China, and Nepal. The state government has begun the process for such a designation of those still missing by seeking the federal government's permission, since the law specifies an interval of 7 years before a missing person can be declared dead. Sikkim retrieved at least 40 bodies in the flood aftermath, and the neighboring state of West Bengal 60, said officials from the two states who are working to reconcile the official toll and eliminate double counting. More than 200 of such lakes now pose a a high hazard in Himalayan communities in Bhutan, China, India, Nepal, and Pakistan, researchers in 2022 have shown. Haitian police have arrested a former Justice Ministry official suspected of ordering the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. Joseph Felix Bourdieu was caught as he was driving out of a supermarket car park in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Mr. Moïse was murdered in his bedroom by Colombian mercenary in 2021. Most have since been arrested or killed. His death threw Haiti into a prolonged political crisis and led to unprecedented levels of lawlessness. Within months, criminal gangs extended their control over the capital, including its infrastructure and main fuel port. Mr. Bourdieu is accused of ordering hitmen to carry out the attack. He is charged with murder, attempted murder, and armed robbery. Haiti's unelected government has struggled to provide even basic services since Mr. Moïse's death. Thousands of Haitians have fled their homes in Port-au-Prince amid the soaring violence, and thousands have already died this year. The UN recently ratified deploying an international force to support Haiti's police, but few countries have committed personnel, and it has yet to materialize. Elsewhere, U.S. billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk has shed $16 billion of his fortune overnight as Tesla shares sank over 9% on the back of poor financial results in the third quarter of 2023. The electric car maker's share fell 9.3% to $220 when the stock closed on Thursday, after the quarterly report showed the company's net income dropping almost 1.8 times in the past quarter. Musk's net worth dwindled by 7% to $210 billion, which was still not enough to dislodge him from the top spot in the ranking of the world's richest people. Now in Kenya, 4 persons have died and 13 others injured following an early morning stampede in Green Stadium in Kericho, the venue of the 2023 Mashujaa Day celebrations. The 13 sustained serious injuries, some to the head, legs, eyes, and their backs. According to the police reports seen by The Standard, the stampede occurred at Gate C of the stadium after a vendor selling hot tea outside accidentally spilled the beverage on people, causing a commotion. As a result, members of the public panicked and mistook it to be a tear gas thrown at them. The incident caused a stampede that resulted in several injuries as attendees attempted to gain access to the ground. At least 13 people, including 3 police officers, were rushed to the Kericho County Level 5 hospital for treatment. 4 other people sustained minor injuries and were treated and discharged. The dead bodies were removed to the hospital morgue pending identification and post-mortem. Elsewhere, President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to attend the Cairo Summit for Peace in Egypt, which will focus on ongoing conflict between Hamas and Israel. The war between the two parties raged on, with claims that an Israeli rocket struck a Greek Orthodox church in Gaza on Friday. The summit is set to take place on Saturday, with 13 presidents from around the world expected to attend. As the international community tries to intervene in the ongoing war between Israel and militant group Hamas, 12 world leaders are set to meet in Egypt on Saturday to discuss a way forward. President Ramaphosa said that South Africa was ready to join the global effort to bring peace to the Middle East, as the enormous loss of life in the area was concerning. In another development, Niger's junta on Thursday stated that it had thwarted an escape attempt by ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, who has been imprisoned by the military since a July 26 coup, despite international calls for his release. The interim authorities said that Bazoum and his family, with the help of accomplices in the security forces, planned to drive a vehicle to the outskirts of the capital Niamey and catch a helicopter to neighboring Nigeria. According to military spokesman on national television, the strong reaction of the defense and security forces made it possible to foil this plan to destabilize the country. Like elected presidents in neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, Bazoum was pushed out in part because of mounting insecurity caused by an Islamist insurgency that had killed thousands in the region and which the military said it would be able to contain better than the civilian government. Also, the Democratic Republic of Congo's Electoral Commission has declared admissible the 24 candidates registered for the 20 December presidential election, according to a list published on Friday, but still be examined by the Constitutional Court. The definitive list of candidates will be published on November 18 on the eve of the official opening of the electoral campaign that began de facto several weeks ago. Among the provisional candidacy received between 9 September and 8 October is that of the incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi, who has been in power since January 2019 and is running for a new 5-year term. The presidential election will be coupled with legislative, provincial, and communal elections for which thousands of the candidatures have been registered. Despite the assurances of the authorities, many Congolese have experienced this at the previous election, still have doubt about the organization of vote in the time, and are worried that there will be a landslide. And finally, on world news, the youth wing of the All Progressive Congress, APC, in the southwest region has taken a swipe at their counterparts in the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, over the ultimatum given to Governor of Ondo State, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, to return to the state from his Ibadan abode. While revealing that Akeredolu will soon return to the state, the APC's youth, who converged at Akure, the state capital, yesterday, stated that there is no vacuum in the governance of the state as being insinuated. During a press briefing, the youth leader of the party in the region, Comrade Kolade Lawal, emphasized that Akeredolu's absence from the state was solely to recuperate and regain his strength. And that's it on World News. Many thanks for staying with us. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is Voice of the People TV, and on other social platforms at VOP TV Live. I'm Joy Adesua Iraboseli. Good afternoon.